very good afternoon. My name is Claudia van Zuiden.
And my name is Arturo Mazzaro.
And together we are CWA. And welcome. If it's your first time you're ever watching one of our videos, then great that you're here.
I cannot imagine that it's your first time.
I don't know how many videos have we got so far?
Oh, well.
I don't think we...
70, 80, maybe more.
Maybe more, yeah. So if you miss some of them, then, hopefully you can catch up on our YouTube channel, which is maybe easier than on our Facebook page, because then you can't see them all together. You get all the posts in between, but if you go on our YouTube channel, you see them all under each other, and that might be more helpful for you if you want to catch up on some of the topics which we've discussed. And according to the feedback, people really find them very helpful. Some have watched them again, and then the second time they go like, oh my gosh, that's really, now I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Then I heard it, but it was maybe not something in my life that it was so appropriate for. So it's always worth watching them again on a rainy afternoon or something like that, or just if you want to have some tools how to expand your level of consciousness, because that's what we're really all about.
Yeah, that's why we called Conscious World Agents.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? So what does it mean actually, a conscious world agent?
Well, if you look at consciousness, it's not the topic that we're going to talk.
Nope.
No? Okay, all right.
No.
Well, basically, the degree of consciousness where you are has 4 qualities.
Nice. And
the first quality is density. How dense is the consciousness? If we look at consciousness, everything is consciousness. The rock is a consciousness. You are, is that you? Yeah, you are consciousness. Your thoughts are consciousness. Everything exists from consciousness. But the degree of density, how heavy it feels, determines the degrees of how high is your consciousness level. You can imagine that the rock feels really heavy. Then you really see that it's the material stuff is becoming really dense and it feels heavy. Also your thoughts, when you think about hatred or frustration, it feels totally different than when you think about happiness or love. It makes you, this one makes you a little bit more light. It lights you up, and the other one tears you down. So the first quality is density. The denser it is, more or less you can also say that the level of consciousness is low. The second quality is self-awareness. Once you are self-aware of how heavy you feel, for instance, that you have these thoughts that will bring you down, that feel heavy, if you are self-aware of this, then maybe you can change it. So, and then you can also, at that moment, you already raised the level of your consciousness a little bit by being self-aware. Hey, this is a thought that is not helping me. You don't have to change it right away, but is this what I really want? And that's the self-awareness. Constantly slow down, see what's happening. Can you acknowledge where you are? That's one of the things that we are going to talk about today. Can you acknowledge where you are? Oh yes, I'm here. Oh yes, I'm having these thoughts. Only that will already help you to take a little bit more a meta position and feel a little bit lighter. Then the third quality is intelligence, and it's not the IQ. It's not about all the mathematics that you know and all the systems that you really know how to handle this. No, it's more or less a wisdom inside of you. A wisdom inside of you that's telling you, okay, I can change. I can make myself lighter. I can change these thoughts into different thoughts. And just like Tesla said it, Einstein said it, Buddha said it, hundreds and thousands of people already on this planet already said it for 1,000 years and more. Your thoughts determines your reality. It brings you the result that you're constantly thinking of. And most of the times it's at a subconscious level, not at a conscious level, but at a subconscious level. So these belief systems, these thoughts that you have, if you have the wisdom to look at it, then you can change it. So the density, low. If the density is very hard, if it's very dense, then low consciousness level. Then self-awareness, then you already get a step higher. You feel a little bit lighter. And then if you use your own wisdom and probably also the intelligence of the universe, then it will help you to change. But that's not only enough. The fourth quality, and that's probably the most important one, is your directive power, your willpower. And willpower doesn't mean you have to do everything and it's on, well, my willpower. No, it's, do you have the desire to change? Are you willing to take the step? Are you willing to invest, to put the effort in it without feeling that it's really an effort? And once you do that, then you really change the things. Then you change the density. It will become lighter. You see a different, you have a different self-awareness on that situation again. Then you can use the wisdom again and the directive power to change. And this is a continuous loop. But once you start it, you see how fast it can go, the spiral upwards. And this is more or less the way how you change your life, your reality. And you can use your creativity then. Anything to add?
There's lots to add. I love it how you explained it, and yeah, did you finish with it, or?
Yeah, there's so much more to say about it. But
what else?
What else do you want to add for this?
Well, I'd like to also add to that indeed those four are amazing qualities that we can become aware of, and then indeed raise the level of consciousness, and also to realize that there is only one consciousness.
Yeah.
So whatever my level of consciousness adds to the pot of the consciousness comes in the whole field of consciousness, the one field. So, you know, we could say, like you named the rock, for example, but the rock, you know, in some traditions also see them as a huge level of consciousness. You know, it's used in sweat lodges, for example, sort of ceremonies where they then, you know, get messages from the rocks because it's been there for millions of years.
Absolutely.
And, you know, so there, and we when we go on that level of consciousness, then we have a very high level of consciousness. So I think you're more referring to the weight you
and also if it's going to materialize, a lot of times that has it's more dense than when it's not materialized. But I like it because a lot of minerals and these stones that people use, it's not for, how do you say this in English? Not for nothing?
Need for nix.
Yeah, need for nix.
Not for nothing.
The people use it already for thousands of years because they have a power also in themselves. And that's the consciousness. And I totally agree. Everything is the same consciousness. Yeah.
And I think that's a nice addition to what you're saying. But what you pointed out is really to become aware, you know, of how we can expand the level of consciousness. And I think those 4 steps are, you know, very helpful to be aware of that. So I love that. So yeah, those 4 levels of qualities of consciousness.
Qualities of consciousness. You have the degree of consciousness.
So when we have actually got that sort of meta position of level of consciousness, how will it affect our lives, you think?
Well, a lot of times, sometimes in the beginning I said, can you accept where you are right now?
Yeah.
For people, a lot of people, the word I need to accept the situation is a little bit hard because they think then I have to accept it and I cannot change it and I have to do it all the rest of my life, working here, being in this relationship, having this disease, having all these kind of things. But that's not what we mean. And at a certain moment you came up with, well, what if we say instead of accepting, can you acknowledge, at least acknowledge that you are where you are?
Right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
With your thoughts, with all the happiness in your life, with all the misery in your life, all these kind of things. Can you accept, literally, can you acknowledge, yes? Can you acknowledge that you are in this situation? And that's the first step of stepping out. That's the self-awareness.
That's right.
Where we were talking about. And once you really at least acknowledge, you don't have to accept it for the rest of your life. Can you acknowledge that you're in this situation? Then something starts with you. Probably it already you feel a little bit lighter. Yes, I'm here. Yeah. I'm here in this chair, in this room, together with Claudia. Yes, that's it. And this is not misery, this is happiness. And just describe everything as it is, as you at least perceive it.
Experience it.
You experience it. And from this acknowledgement, you can take the next step. And the hardest reality for people is to acknowledge the reality therein. And once you can really acknowledge it, then you also can look at it from a different level. You can look at it from a different angle. And suddenly there are different ways, maybe for a solution. There are different opportunities to look at the situation. And once you feel the suffering, it's most of the times it's denying and the refusal of the acknowledgement of the reality. So if you feel the suffering, probably you want to be there, but you're here. You don't acknowledge that you're here. Your mind is constantly, no, it's not good here, I want to be there. And that's the suffering where we're in. And you can stop at least a part of the suffering to say, yes, I'm here. Maybe I don't want to be here, but I'm here. And then the next part, then the intelligence comes in. That's the wisdom. Is this where I really want to be, yes or no? And if it's a no, okay, what's then maybe the first step I can do? Not to try to solve the solution totally in one thing, because in my life, and maybe that's also a belief that I have, but in my life it didn't work to try to solve everything in one time. When I started to make small steps, it helped me so much more to step out of this suffering. And once you do this, and you have really the directive power, your power to, your will to change, and again, not with the force to change, but the internal will, yes, your motivation, your intention is there, yes, I can change. Then you start to see different solutions and different opportunities to take that path. And it can be probably that's the path of your heart. And of course, we're going to talk about our path of the heart later on in this Facebook Live. But acknowledgement, slow down, take a time, feel, and then have the intelligence, the wisdom, where you want to go. and then take the first step.
Very nice. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Very much so. Well, I think that is a very nice way of how to acknowledge the fact where you're at,
Yeah.
you know, and to, like you say, recognizing that the suffering is because you want to be somewhere else. And, you know, you can, of course, also be suffering in that situation when you're right in, you know, because that some people are in a horrible situation right now, and, you know, some things can not perhaps be so easily changed. However, your mind is still often stronger than you think that you are. So with your mind, you can, when you start to see things as they truly are in that moment, that can already give a sense of freedom. And then, like you say, taking those next steps.
Yeah.
You know, and what we're saying here is basically all based also on our personal experience. So what works for us doesn't necessarily mean that it works for you. So, you know, take the steps accordingly, or take things out of it that resonate with you and that you feel you could maybe apply in your life. But like, I like the small steps, you know, the baby steps, because, you know, what somebody said to me today, many ways lead to Rome.
Yeah.
But that way to Rome is a long way. So, you know, I don't necessarily think we want to go to Rome right now, but you know what I mean? Yeah, well, yeah, maybe. But you know what I mean? It's like that whole road starts with one first step.
Absolutely.
And that first step can often be the catalyst for change.
Yeah.
So, yeah, feel what resonates with you, and what is it that first step that you can take to perhaps get out of the situation that you're in that is not so helpful for you.
Yeah. And you said the change is there not immediately. Is that what you said, more or less?
In certain situations,
Okay.
yeah.
But what always you can change immediately are your thoughts.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that the reality in front of you, as you experience it, will change right away. But your thoughts about the situation, your thoughts about yourself, your thoughts about the other people, your thoughts about what other people will do to you, and how the world is, and all this heavy stuff, you can change it right away. And if you change it right away, then your density, it will be less.
Mm-hmm.
And then you feel a little bit lighter. Then you raise your level of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And that's one wonderful way of approaching, especially situations that can be really challenging for people, and also, you know, in good situations when you feel, you know, your potential wants to come out even more. You know, you feel there's something in you that wants to blossom. You know, how can you acknowledge that and say, well, I feel there's something. You know, it's like something else wants to express itself and to really show my true self into the world. What can I then take as a small step to achieve that as well? So it's not only looking at maybe challenging situations, but also looking at situations that will take you to the next level, perhaps, of consciousness, or the next level of expressing yourself into this conscious field. What we're talking about is one field, divine field of consciousness, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. And what I think is, what you're going to talk about, is also a next step to get out of this, well, if you're in the misery, to step out.
Which is the second one,
Yeah.
like don't take anything
Yeah.
personally. Well, that is for sure one thing that can create such a relief when you start to realize that whatever people are saying, or what people are doing, or even harmful words or harmful thoughts they project towards you, you have a choice to make that personal or not. Once you start to see that is something that someone is doing because of their perception, how they see things, how they view things, how they experience things, and it's got nothing to do with you. It doesn't mean that you can then start reacting or behaving like a whatever person. You know, there might be moments that there could be something in that you could reflect upon. You know, don't use this spiritual bypassing, as we sometimes call it. If somebody puts a mirror in front of you, say, hey, you know, I experience it like this. Yeah, look at it. But if you start to realize that if people or situations come towards you, you don't have to take it personally. If they are accusing you of something or they're reflecting something towards you that comes from their bias, their perception, check up with yourself. You know, is there some truth in this? And how do I experience this? And if you feel that energy is so totally not resonating with you, just like hold up that mirror as well and let it directly point back to the other person. I do like that. And why is that? Because that gives you a much greater sense of yourself, of who you are. So what does it help you with? You know, why when you start not taking things personally, you become the creator of your reality. Like you were saying earlier, you can raise your level of consciousness because you start living your life how you feel is the best for you. You are in alignment with who you truly are, and you start behaving from that viewpoint. So how can you do that? You know, when you say, let's say Arturo would have a bad day or a bad mood.
Me?
Highly unlikely.
Me a bad day?
But he would say something to me that, you know, like he's grumpy or whatever, and he says something to me like very snappy or whatever like that. That does say nothing or about how I am in that moment. His mood says nothing about my mood, so I don't have to then mirror that mood and make it mine. I can just say, okay, leave it right there. It's, you know, sort it out, whatever you want to talk about it or whatever, or do whatever you need to do, but it's not my mood. It's not my grumpiness or whatever.
And you can decide also, you said it's not my mood. But you can also decide if it's going to influence you or not. Yeah.
So it doesn't have to become my mood as such. So, you know, because it's not mine. So once you start to realize that and start to become aware of that, imagine at your work, you know, when you come in your work sometimes, or if you work at, or maybe in your community organization projects, whatever, and you go there and you feel there is this atmosphere. You don't have to take that personal. It's got nothing with you stepping into the room, probably, but depending on what you've done in the past. But let's say you come in the room, you feel there's an atmosphere, and you say, whoa, and you can see what's happened. Maybe there's been an argument or whatever. That's nothing to do with you. You don't have to absorb that. You don't have to react on that. You don't have to go within the conversation around it. Just stay aligned with your energy, with who you are, and then keep emanating that. And the funny thing is, once you start doing that, the sense of liberation, the sense of getting things more done the way you wanted to do, really making yourself known in the world as you are, not as other people perceive as you are, creates so much more space and so much more fulfillment in your life, and a sense of liberation.
Yeah. And peace.
Yeah, inner peace.
Inner peace.
Because you start to see it. Wow, that's how they are. Whoa, that's how they are. You know, and at that moment, you know, you start to acknowledge how people are behaving at a certain moment and how they often want to draw you into the misery and into the drama, you know? Yeah. No, if you don't want to do that, make a conscious choice. Do I want to go into that drama? Yes, well, go ahead. But if you don't want to do that, if you just want to stay where you are, stay where you are. Take a deep breath. Not my drama, not my karma, whatever, you know, and acknowledge it again and stay with your own center. So what does that help? How does it help? It helps to stay more balanced. It helps to make more sense. You get more done, as I said earlier, and your energy will be more authentic. So you start to live more. You're alive from your authentic self rather than of projections and perceptions from others.
Beautiful.
And
yeah,
that's, I think, sort of what we wanted to share today. And I don't know what you want to add to that. I'm sure you have something nice.
A lot of times what we see, and I've done it also in the past, and sometimes it will happen still. But if you take it personally, you also feel sometimes, let's say, frustration or anger. And what we do is then we blame the other person.
Yeah,
So
nice.
who can change the situation then? Is it the one who has the power? Do you have the power yourself, or is the power in the hands of the other person? Because he or she must change so that I don't feel frustration or anger anymore.
Yes.
And once you really understand this simple mechanism, yes, to be honest, that's pretty stupid to think that he needs to change so that I don't feel anger anymore.
Yes.
How come? So take the power back by don't take
Things personal.
anything personal. And anything, it's anything. And it's the nice part of what Don Miguel Ruiz said in wrote in his book, The Four Agreements. Don't take anything personal. Nothing. Even if they shout at you, they call you names, it has nothing to do with you. Everything to do with the anger, frustration, the emotional intelligence that the other person doesn't have at that moment.
Or does have.
Or does have, but maybe
At that moment,
want to hurt you
Yeah.
because they feel it themselves.
Yeah, it can be all sorts of reasons. Yeah, and still, yeah, like you say, it doesn't matter.
No.
What matters is how do you respond? How do you
So
react?
take the power back.
Yeah,
That's it.
love that. Okay, well, we hope that was helpful, and we'll put it on our YouTube channel as well. So hopefully we can record it. Oh, well, this is a bit
Yeah, it's
silly
recorded.
with Facebook. And another thing before we go, we have Path of the Heart
Yes.
retreat next week. There's a few places available. Don't miss out if you really feel in your heart that you would like a weekend of slowing down, coming back to your heart, spending it with lovely people in nature, meditate, make some nice food together, and just totally have time for yourself. So if that's what you want, send an email at consciousworldagents@gmail.com or go on our website, consciousworldagents.com
/retreats.
and you will find out information.
The Path of the Heart, July 2nd and 3rd.
Yes,
Find your balance again.
yes, go back to your inner peace. So we'll share some amazing tools with you how to do that. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be fantastic.
It is already.
Okay, so
Okay.
have a wonderful weekend. Wherever
And listen
you are.
to your heart.
Listen to your heart and don't take anything personal.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.